Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? This is boy Marquise. We got David. We got we got Preacher Man, and we got Kurt Franklin, aka Haywood and Gabe. Welcome to another episode of When Men Speak. And the topic is the value of a man, part two. And what we're going to talk about today is the impact of a father. So all of us here going to kind of go around the horn a little bit and talk about what the impact us that we've had as being a father and what we think the importance of being a father is in kids' life. And of course, we're going to go back and refer back to Claudine. We're going to have a few clips and we're going to kind of elaborate on those clips as well. We're going to go around and hit Gabe up first this time. Gabe, what do you think as far as your impact as being a father to your kids have been?
Yeah, for me, I would say instilling godly values on what I think is important for a kid to emulate, right? So I want to be a good example to my kids. The things that I kind of got from my parents that have benefited me, like the value of education, the value of being respectful, the value of managing money, investments, but most importantly is God. My grandmother used to always give me this scripture, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then everything else will be added to you. It's not until I got older that I realized what she meant. Now that I know that God should come first, what I do, especially with my son, is I remind him daily that he should put God first. So how I do that, I send him daily scripture. We talked about it. And my goal is to impart wisdom, godly wisdom into my children, similar to what Solomon did for David. David did for Solomon. Um, David was one of the best example of a humanly father. But we as Christian men, we said we should emulate our heavenly Father. So, you know, make sure all my conversation seasoned with salt. And I want to be a man that my son will always respect, and my daughters. So that's what I try to instill in my kids.
So one question. Did you have a you said your grandmother, did you have your was your father in your life?
No. So my father, when I was born, I didn't meet my father until I was 4. But I did have a stepfather that was in my life, and my stepfather was in my life from the time I was born, so I knew him, and I still know him. So he did play a role, and I was blessed enough that my mother had a lot of brothers that kind of step in to be, like a fatherly figure. But I
Hmm.
didn't reconnect with my own father until I was 14. So I
Right.
understand the impact of not having, your biological father being in your life.
So what was the impact of having your stepfather though? Because you talked about your grandmother, but what was the impact of that male influence as far as your stepfather?
I think when I was younger, to be honest, my stepfather and I, we were close. I respected him, but when I got older, there was a lot of tension. I would say that, and but in in like instilling stuff in me, I think it came more from my grandmother, to be honest. Um,
Okay.
yeah, than my stepfather.
Okay. David, your impact as far as your kids and the impact your father. I think your father was in your life, wasn't he? Or no?
Nah, I ain't.
Oh, he was. Okay.
My father wasn't in my life. He was he was around though. I could see him. I seen him. Um, I knew what he was doing. Um, yeah, my father had some addictions, so I still had a my father still had a significant impact on my life because without knowing what he went through and what he experienced, that kind of gave me the exposure to say, hey, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm definitely not going down that route. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Impact, regardless of what the person is doing or who they is in your life, whether they active or inactive, it still has an impact on your life. You know what I'm saying? So you as a father need to dictate what your impact is on your kids' lives. You know what I'm saying? You get to dictate that. There's no excuses. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
have no excuses. So whether you got 6 kids or 1 kid, you don't have any excuses. You dictate the impact. So and I just try to be a positive impact. That's my goal. I know
So
that. Go ahead.
how do you think you've impacted your kids, being that you didn't have a father? How do you feel like you've impacted them right now?
Yeah, yeah. I just about to go into that. So yeah, so positively, I know I exposed them to a lot that they wasn't. I know I wasn't exposed to that type of stuff as far as travel, giving them an open mind, a different perspective in this world. So that they're not isolated in this one box or in this one county, this one city, and that's all they know. You can think outside of that. So if you can think outside of that, you can grow outside of that as well. So I gave them that perspective and tell them, basically stand on spiritual, have some values, some morals, some principles, stand on something. Don't just live out here recklessly. You need to have a spiritual background. Whatever you want to believe in, you're entitled to believe it. But you need to pray to somebody, so and have some type of guidance outside of the street and the TV and society. So I know I've impacted them in that way, and just having some discipline. You know, you gotta you gotta teach that these days. You can't. It don't just come with all of the distractions that we have. You know what I'm saying? We didn't grow up with all these distractions. So
Right.
the distraction that these kids have these days, it's like you have to still implement and enforce discipline in their lives so they understand what they look like. And that's not I'm talking about not like punitive in nature, but discipline. Like you need to have some type of discipline for yourself. You know what I'm saying? To accomplish certain things. So you got to set goals, and I think I've impacted them in that way. Like they've seen my accomplishments throughout life. They've seen me work hard, study hard, weeks at a time, nights at a time. They've experienced it. They've seen it, so they know what it looks like to, get these certifications and stuff like that.
All right, Kurt.
How did I impact my children?
First off, was your father in your life? How he impacted you, and then also how you impact your kids.
So my biological father was not in my life. I was raised by my mom's best friend and her husband from since I was 4 months old. So I had a father in my life all my life. And I didn't refer to him as stepdad because he's the only dad that I knew at the time growing up. They told me about my biological parents always, so I knew them. Um, my mother lived in the same neighborhood I grew up in. My dad was in and out, but I knew them, and they taught me to love them as my mother and father, just as I did for them. So I had a father in my life growing up, but my father showed no emotion. Um, he never told me he loved me. I didn't get that. He was a very hard man. He grew up doing he was a Korean War vet. So he grew up doing sharecropping and all that kind of time. So it was all about providing, and hey, as long as I provide, that's all I'm supposed to do. So I grew up during that era. But my mom, on the other hand, she was the epitome of love, who I grew up with. So she taught me that side. So I got both sides. So his impact on me, it was rough for me because I didn't realize how much I didn't realize what I missed from him until I became a father, if that makes sense. So, but what I did know as a father is that I didn't want my kids to grow up like I did, because he was present but absent. If you understand what I'm saying, he was present but absent, and so I wanted to make sure my kids knew that I was present, and active. So I kissed my boys, I hugged my boys, I made sure they knew that I was there for them. Very communicative with my children, man. Talked about everything, from early on. I didn't very transparent with them on who their father was, me, and the things that I did, and the things got me caught up. So I wanted to make sure that my kids had that instilled upon them the importance of family, and coming to us is a safe space. Like, I didn't want you to be afraid to come talk to us about whatever you did. You know what I'm saying? So I can give you some guidance in that area, so hopefully you won't make that mistake again. But now it wasn't like that off rip, because my oldest son, he was my test bed. You know what I'm saying? He was the kid that I learned how to be a parent with. So all those bad habits that came from my parents got passed on to him. Like, when I grew up, I got a whooping for everything. I mean, I don't care what you did, but the only answer was whooping. So I raised him that way. And my wife had to help me get out of that mindset. Like, Chancey, you can't whip the boy for everything. I mean, come on now. So some of those were bad habits that I picked up, that I got better as we went along. But that was one that I really wish I could take back, man. He talked about that thing to this day. He's 26.
So what you're saying is, although that some of the things that you didn't get for your dad, you looked at what you was lacking from him, and then you made the transition when you became a father to try to do everything you could to provide to them what you wasn't able to get.
Correct.
So that hit that's the way your father impacted you, and
Yeah.
as far as your fatherhood was concerned. And then also the thing that you didn't understand as far as he was concerned, you realized when you became a father, you begin to understand it.
Yeah, because I realized the impact it had on me as I became an adult, and I didn't want my kids to go through that. So I realize now that from your parents that you have, you can learn what to do as well as what not to do. You know what I mean? Because all of it is a lesson, no matter the good and the bad. So we got to use all of the examples that's laid before us and that's set before us to help mold and shape the way we want to raise our own kids when we get some.
So your father impacted, because you were saying that some things you realized later on, and you say he was more of a provider, right?
Yeah.
So is that something that you learned from him?
Absolutely. That's all he did was provide. So I got that boy early on.
So being that you said that made me think about, remember the last episode we talked about the value of a man was what? It's how much money he make and how he can provide, right?
Yeah.
That's what society based us on. So that's the era he came into.
Yeah.
It's on, it was men that provided outside of that was far in between during his era. We are the ones that started to come up because of what we was lacking. We was trying not to repeat the same thing that our fathers and their father did with them.
Trying to break the cycle.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just something that I wanted to bring up and think about. Just for myself though, my father, honestly, oh man, honestly, the person that I know that was identified to me as my father, and I still don't know if he was my father to this day, disowned me. So I didn't really have a father, you know what I'm saying, in my life like that. My stepfather came along and he began to be the same as Chance was saying his dad was. He was just a provider. I didn't establish a relationship with him, and that's where I learned the value of hard work. I learned the value of hard work from him, because that joker had me out there in the yard raking leaves, cutting grass. At 15, I was he used to work at this at Pioneer, which was a place that build houses. Well, not houses, but they build trailer homes. And
Mhm.
at 15 years old, bro, I'm out during the summertime when I'm out of school. I'm out there humping with my
Mhm.
dad. Boy, you couldn't tell me that. Boy, I was bringing in good money, everything. You know what I'm saying? So he taught me the value of hard work and how to provide. But as far as the emotional aspect, even my mom didn't never really say that she was proud of me a whole lot. Um, she was a hard woman as well. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, she loved hard. I would say the turning point for me was I really never had a male, and I looked up to my uncles and stuff, but that was because I thought that they was cool as far as getting girls and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I looked up to them because they was cool people like that. But the one thing that impacted me and let me know what I really needed, as far as the father, was one time, um, my dad, I was playing. We used to play the Nintendo, and my dad walked by my room. I call him my dad, even though he's my stepdad. He walked by my room and he looked in and saw what I was doing as I was playing the game, and he just stopped and he came in and he sat next to me. He got the controller and he started playing the game with me. And man, I feel it right now. I'm 45 years old. Dang, I'm old. But I when he sat next to me, man, it was just such a great feeling, bro. He like stopped everything and entered into my world for that moment and was interested in what I was interested in. And that moment from then, I wanted and I seek after that having moments like that. But it never happened again.
Mm.
But from that moment, I was like, dang, this is what I want to create for my kids. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I try my best to do is stop everything and not just focus on providing, even if it's that one. It's not I always say it's not the quantity, but it's always the quality of the time that you spend with a child.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um, but with that said, man, um, what I was gonna ask, as far as that impact, um, and as far as the way we are viewed, as far as the value of a man, what we talked in the last episode is based upon how much he can provide. We talked about that, and how much money he makes. But as we can see, what we're talking now, like it's more than that.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We got to learn to provide. Remember back then, during those days, that's what a man was about, providing for the household. The women worked, and then now we talk about the modern age woman and the mindset of the modern age woman. If you guys don't know what we talked about, I encourage you to check out the first episode, part one, and we talked about how that evolved and how now they're trying to allow us to be on equal playing fields with dual households with men and women working. Even in separate households, you got the man trying to work and then provide when it comes to child support and all these things. And how a man is supposed to provide more emotionally now, more spiritually now, and not just be a paycheck. Like how that's important, but how hard is that? Because we hear all the time about, if you notice, even in the dual household, or or in a household to where there's single fathers or single mothers where they're separate and taking care of a child, even though a father had a huge impact on the son or a daughter, when they make it somewhere, who is the first person that they think?
Mama.
Mama.
Do you hardly ever hear anything about the father?
Ain't no
No,
sense.
no, you don't.
no matter how present the father is in their life, right?
Right.
That's not just, you know what I'm saying, society, it has it that way as well. So I think I say this all the time that men, good fathers, um, good fathers are unsung heroes.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this last, and I want you guys to chime in after I say this. Chime in with your thoughts. We talked about last time how dang it, I just lost my thought. My thought. Oh, about how women are really celebrated during Mother's Day, but even good fathers are not really celebrated during Father's Day like that.
Mhm.
So, what are you guys' thought on it? Everything that I just said. Y'all
Don't
don't have no
everybody
thoughts?
jump in at once?
Well, James,
Right,
you
right.
go first. But I would chime in quick, right? So, one of the things that impacted me growing up, and I just want to be clear, was, and we as adults have to be careful what we tell kids, right? So it was constantly repeated to me that I was not going to be nothing in life. And I'm 41 years old, and I use that as motivation, right? So my stepfather told me that one time he was mad. I had uncles and family members tell me that. So that's something as a father I would never ever tell any of my kids, be it any young person, right? Because first of all, that's really negative, right? with the face, but we have to understand the impact of our words on kids, right? So I think there was what's his name? The movie director said his mom told him that, and he refused to give her any money because she said he was not going to be nothing, and now he's something. So that's something that I, as a father, refuse to ever tell my kid. Matter of fact, I uplift them. On your point about father not being appreciated, I just think that's just the norm in society, right? And for me personally, I am okay with not. Like I said, my goal is like I struggle with it because I'm still in the fight where I'm not even allowed to see my son, right? So I'm still trying to go above, trying to do whatever I have to do to be a good father to him. But you know, my goal is to impart into my son things that I know would be beneficial for his life in this country. So even if I'm not celebrated, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it's right, but as long as I'm doing my part to raise my kids, that they could do, like my son and my daughter will be equipped to live and be independent and good members of the society, I'm okay with that. But yeah, Father's Day, I mean, it's just a day. I don't think fathers are appreciated in today's society at all.
Man, while you were talking, Markeith, I was trying to take some notes down because I lose my train of thought. So man, here's the thing: whether you're in the same household, mother and father, or you're raising a child in separate households, whatever. The key when it concerns the children is unity, man. Like those two parents, you have to be on the same sheet of music when it concerns that child because it affects their development, their mental and emotional health, their foundation that they're going to have. If you got one parent telling them one thing when they with them, another parent telling them another thing with them, I mean, that's part of what's causing the divide, what I'm saying, between mothers and fathers, the gap that we see on Mother's and Father's Day. Especially when it comes to boys, that mom, boy, she a sucker for them boys just like we a sucker for them girls. But That's why it's so important that we be on one accord. There shouldn't be no variation between what they get from mama, what they get from daddy when it comes to the rules of the house, the rules, or not just the rules, but how we're going to raise them. Like Gabe said, what we're going to pour into them. He says it's so important what we tell, what we say to children, what we pour into them. We got to be on the same sheet of chord, a same sheet of music for the sake of the child. Get ourselves out of the picture, and what is our goal for them? And like you say, get them to be a contributing, successful member of society. Well, you can't confuse them from the very onset. We gotta be all preaching the same language. But yeah, man, unity is vital. It's vital.
D, what you got? What's your thought, man?
I like what Gabe was talking about too. About we understand we're not celebrated at all. Well, I ain't gonna say at all, because I'm sitting here looking at Father's Day gifts. You know what I'm saying, in my office throughout my years, but it's not on the level as what we see with how mothers are celebrated in society. I will say my kids celebrate me as a father. And that's a great feeling, man. My daughters buy me bracelets, picture frames, and with their own money now. With their own money, not somebody that gave them some money. It's some money they didn't have. They shopping online and stuff like that. So that tells you that's a different thing. Because I know when I was growing up, I don't remember doing that. As a kid from my parents, especially not my dad. Now, I do some stuff for my mom because of school and stuff like that. But we ain't know better to, shop like that. So, yeah, celebrating dads, but the impact, man, I'm proud of my impact. Yeah, I'm proud of my impact as a father. It ain't the best storyline, but I done came a long way as a father, and then like Marquis was that no Chauncey was saying earlier, my oldest got it. Yeah, that was a trial. That was the one with, I'm gonna say my oldest too, but I know my oldest definitely got a bunch of butt whoopings because that's what I had got when I was growing up with my uncle and aunt, all the time, So, and my youngest, oh man, I don't even know when I ever whooped her, So, I got a new technique though, to discipline and technology, and I like reports. I already get them in writing essays, so it's fun being a father. It's rewarding in itself. I find that reward within itself. Pat myself on the back, and I feel proud sometimes. Because sometimes we beat ourselves up because we probably ain't making enough. We feel like we ain't making enough money. And that's what we sometimes. We value ourselves as men based on how much money we bringing in, and we have those type of worries like we got to make this money because we got to buy this or take them there or do this or whatever it may be. So with the resources I got, I feel like I've been doing pretty good with it. Yeah.
So real quick, Miss Ingram. All right, after we play this clip, we're gonna play another clip from Claudine. After we play this clip, D, I want you to be the first person to tell us. First, I want you to answer the question: have you been in this space before? As a father, okay? And then we're gonna go around the horn on that. Can you do the first one, Miss Ingram? You press play.
didn't hear no damn bell. I ain't heard no bell. Charles, you hear a bell?
No, I ain't heard nothing.
The TV was on anyway. Mommy, I heard. Just have a seat. I'll be ready. And one more thing. Before we sailed upon this most perilous voyage of our lives, I wish to propose a toast. A toast to one who has hot produced from the worst possible.
Right, kids.
Hey, here comes the ice cream man.
How do you know that?
Can't you hear them bells? Don't ask Mama for no money. She always say I ain't got it. Man, is my mouth quivering for some of that fine ice cream. Please.
How much is ice cream?
20 cents. Wait a minute.
Get 6. 5. 5. What you gonna buy me, Mr. Marshall? I don't know. What do you want? Nothing you got. Maybe your mama needs something I got. Mr. Marshall, every time my mother shits over you, it's gonna cost you a quart of blood. You think about that.
Ruth, you ready?
Just as ready as I can get. Hey, where y'all going?
It's the bell.
I don't hear. Oh, you hear a bell?
No, I didn't hear nothing. Francis with the ice cream.
How come you hear that bell?
Yeah, okay, we get it. Smart ass.
6 kids in 4 rooms. Man, see, he's too young. He ain't got enough
Hey,
experience.
you can stop it now, Miss Ingram. All right, so my question, well, not question, but the first statement that I want to say in reference to that before we go around is the first thing they said was, "Mama always say she ain't got it," but a man come in the picture, and the expectation is what? Mom, you provide. So what we talked about, the value of a man, not just society making us feel like we got to be the ones to step up to the plate and reference to that, which we should, right, financially. But the kids also look at us in that manner. That's pressure. That's a lot of pressure. And then also the lesson in the statement that I saw, as far as he was cool with it. They didn't open the door for him or whatever. But then later on, he made them not answer the door for the little kid and made a statement. So, oh, say y'all saying that y'all didn't hear that doorbell ring. So, what do you guys think as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, that was a teachable moment. That was and those kids, you continue to watch the movie, you'll see that I think they gained some respect from him that day, because not one because he bought the ice cream. It was after the fact when he did that with the door, like, hold on, what y'all doing? He made a joke about it, but he was serious, and they understood the seriousness behind the joke. That's why the little girl said smart ass, like, or the little boy said that, like so I think that was the first sign of, I'm gonna earn my respect and you're gonna respect me. Like, when I come around, like, what I'm saying, as a man. So I think he did that. That was a positive, whatever it was you want to call it, positive or negative, but that was an impact in those kids' lives. So that modeling what you want, like modeling the behavior that you want to see out of those kids. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to teach that.
Right, and they came like in little small doses, right, with little lessons. So when I think about the impact of a father, a lot of times we teach differently. You know what I'm saying? We don't necessarily talk. Most of the time, most of us are hands-on, and we make our kids experience the hands-on experience to get those teachings. Kind of like everybody not everybody not a Christian, but kind of like you would say the parables of Jesus, how he just walked through every little aspect of things, opposed to just nurturing, you know what I'm saying, a child like a woman does. A lot of times that's the approach that we take. You know what I'm saying? Even when you see when women, a lot of times men that really involved in their kids' life, a lot of their parents of the kids don't want to leave the kid with the father because the father does things differently. But he ain't too careful, you know what I'm saying, to keep them in the bubble. You know what I'm saying? He won't do what the woman will do, but you'll find that they learn even more from the father because he's not so rigid, I guess you could say. Focused on the I mean, am I wrong? I mean, did that make sense? Do you guys agree with that? I can't hear y'all, Chance. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I think in the case of this woman in particular, you got a single mom trying to raise 6 children on her own.
Right.
So her focus, she's one sided. You know what I'm saying? She like, hey, I only got capacity to feed y'all, make sure y'all get to bed at a certain time, make sure y'all get y'all bus to school, and keep some food on the table. She like, I ain't have time to focus on all those other things, and that's what we're trying to get to is the value of a man, like the value of having a man in your house, like those little teachable lessons like that he taught and didn't teach. You know what I'm saying? The lesson when the guy was when the other little boy was out there playing craps. You know, oh, we got to get to that. Okay, bet.
Yeah.
But all the little things that he was doing along the way, and peep this. Every time he came around, some plant, some water. God bring the increase. He was dropping little seeds every time he came around. He did it in increments, and what it ended up doing, he won all those kids over because he didn't come in. Hey, I'm the man. Sit your down. Hey. He didn't come in like that. He came in, you know, boom, boom, boom. But he was just dropping little things. Every time he come around, he just drop a little something, drop a little something, drop a little something. And then before you know it, they was acknowledging him as dad, even though he never usurped his authority in that manner.
Right.
You know, a lot of times for us, it's all about our approach, man. And I had to learn that as a young father, you know, because my dad was mean and hard and cold and just like rah, rah, rah. So with CJ, that's how I was. And initially, CJ was afraid of me as a son. He was afraid of me. And my wife would always tell me, like, Chance and CJ, she's just scared of you. It's like, so for instance, I would come home from work, man, and CJ would be home, and he wouldn't ask me for something to eat. And then as soon as Tony walk in the door, Mom, I'm hungry. Why you ask your daddy? You know, he was scared to come to me, man, because of my approach, my demeanor, my character, not my character, but the way I came off. And he was afraid of me, man. So I had to change. Sometimes it's just about changing your approach, man. You got like you always hear people say, you get more with honey than you do vinegar. And
Right.
I didn't realize that initially. I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Hey, what you got?
Well, I got like when I was watching, I thought about what David said earlier. For me, being a father and what I got from that, like with my son, everything I did not get from my father or from my parents, I'm the complete opposite with him, right? So I'm very involved in Gabe, like having from the time he was young to now, we had grown conversation. That even his mom when he was a baby, I never talked to my son like a baby. So I never had to beat Gabe. I spanked him once. But so what I saw is like, you know, everyone said, like the moment he stepped in, even though the kids were now welcoming, but because of his mannerism and the way he dealt with them, and he showed, like Chancey said, he didn't come like, I'm the man. Then he kind of surveyed the situation and made the kid, unintentionally to them feel like he was providing off the bat. He bought them ice cream. And then, off the older son was like, what are you going to get me? And he, still didn't answer him in a mean manner. He said, what do you want? Right. So for men and fathers, I don't care whatever space you put out, our intentionality is always going to be providers, right? And so even if those were not his kids, but that was just the role we take. And I don't know what is biblical based, or we can get into that later. But men, we just, but then the way how we talk to the kids is very different than how mothers will talk to the kid. Mothers are usually nurturers, right? Father have a unique skill, like good fathers have a unique skills of teaching lesson. When I think back some teachable lesson that I didn't even realize those were lessons, right? When like my father took me out, when I met my father at 14, my father taught me how to hustle in America. He was like, he was a New York guy. He said, look at the Jewish people, look how they carry themselves, how they have money. And that's something that stuck with me, So that even if that wasn't intention, that stuck with me, and how I carry myself, how I want to make money, how I invest, how I move, just for the lessons my dad taught me about, being in New York, watching how the Jewish people move. So that's something I even tell my young son and my friends. I'm like, that's a valuable lesson I learned from my dad, because we should emulate the best, and
Right.
good at making money. So
as we're gonna see later on, it's gonna kind of bite him. The provider aspect, the weight. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people feel as though that's all you got to do to provide. That's what a man's supposed to do. But there's a weight that comes with being a father. I know I know a lot of women talk about, well, you ain't this and you can't have no baby and all this. But there are certain things, trust me, that men have a huge weight on them because of, you know what I'm saying, what our responsibility really truly is. So hey, let's go into the next clip, Miss Ingram, if you could. Now this wait, before you go, now this is the clip that I wanted to ask, because I kind of got ahead of myself. That I wanted to ask, have you ever been in this space before? Because all of us have had kids out of wedlock, I think, except for Gabe, right?
no, I'm not innocent.
Okay, so all of us have had a kid out of wedlock.
Right.
All of us have had to deal with separate parent homes and child support. So let's go into it real quick.
All right,
Miss
just give one
Miss
second.
Ingram,
Yes,
can you
sir.
make it big for us? Can you make it big for us?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you
I
pull it
thought
up?
that was.
Yeah. I'm glad you clarified, Markeith, because I told what that saying, like coming with 6 kids. I'm like, I've never experienced that.
Yeah, I would have been out.
Yep.
I think it's at the 4313 mark. I think that's the
Yes,
one.
yes, sir. Give me just a moment.
That's fraud. That's fraud. That's fraud.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Can you make it big for us?
Well, she's stupid. I don't care what she did. Don't you never hit that baby like that. Shame on you.
You know how that Patrice when she hit me?
Big boy like you hitting that baby. What happened, baby? Huh? What happened?
Hey, come here. I ain't gonna get you. Come here. What you gonna be when you grow up?
Nothing.
You got to do something to make a living.
I don't know. I want to be invisible.
Invisible. Why you want to be that?
I don't know.
I guess that could be a lot of fun being invisible.
I see the invisible man on television, walks through walls and doors, let you see him, then disappear. Anything you want to do. Mama, come to spank me, I'm gone.
What you doing now?
Drawing.
What?
A house in the country, a mom and a daddy.
Let me see. Where is everybody?
Invisible.
Come on.
How you doing?
What?
Anything?
Come on, 6.
All right.
Six. My point. Man, I bet you a half will make a double for you.
Doing good, huh?
Man, I've been lucky.
Your mama said you didn't want to go back to school.
Come on, dice. That's it. I'm 33. I'm riding it all.
Cover.
Come on, baby.
Yeah. Teacher embarrassed you in front of the class. Says you didn't have no math potential.
8 is the point.
Yeah. I sure hate to see young fella missing out. Not seeing all the good possibilities.
Possibility, man. Bet myself. Make money. Come on, dice. Yeah, only guys that see with money in their pockets are called pimps and the number runners. Come on, dice. Man, I crapped out.
Use it too, now, see?
Let it ride. All of it.
I take one in. Hey, well, look, I got $1 on it.
Yeah, I take $1 on it too.
Get it together.
See? Them guys you talk about.
You're
Know
faded.
them. Yeah, the pimps and the numbers runners. Shoot. After the fines and the payoffs, time in jail, shoot, they looking to have enough money to eat on. They poor, crime poor.
Hey, look, man, you gonna roll or you gonna telephone?
Yeah.
Money in, man.
Let it ride, all of it.
Oh, you ain't playing by yourself. Ain't that
Yeah.
in the world?
Crap for that's him. The point is, you got to study and learn, not for the money, but for yourself, for the possibilities. Dice. Otherwise, you're just another nigger on the hill. My pleasure.
What's with you, Mama?
Oh, that's me and mama thing. How much money you lose, dude?
I started out with 38. Hit twice, and I let it roll. Then I lost a half. Made 45, picked up $1.50, and doubled it. When you came in, I had 3 1/4.
You know what you just did? You added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided all in your willy heads. This shit about no math potential. Boy, you get yourself back in school. I get you walking out on yourself about kick your ass. That's your 35 cents.
Hey, man, you owe me 3 cents.
I'm looking for Charles Price. I'm his mother. He ain't been home for 3 days.
You can stop it now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we talked about earlier about the importance of how a lot of times the dynamic of how we teach, opposed to going up to that crap game. Like, don't you supposed to be in school? What you doing out here? He used he used that as a tool, as a teachable lesson. How often do we as fathers think of doing stuff like that? I know I do. You know what I'm saying? Most of the dudes or the fathers that I know, that's how, even my stepfather, that's how he taught certain things to me. Opposed to my mom, Says, yeah. You get where I'm coming from? So what are you guys' thought as far as that is concerned before we go into the next video? Because we, again, remember we're talking about the impact of a father. There's just certain things, certain ways we impact that, like, and certain authorities and presence that we have that women just don't have. So we see single mothers say so often, I'm the mama and the dad. You can't, there's no possible way you can be both. You can only fill one role, and that's as a mother. Just like a father can only fill one role, and that's as a father. Hey, David,
You
we
on
can't
mute?
hear
You
you.
on mute, bro?
I know as a man, your tone and your pitch, your delivery matters more. I ain't gonna say more when we get in that argument, but it's heavily weighted, right? Heavily impact. So he did that, you know what I'm saying? Like, even at the end, he still had to change his tone and his pitch to be, you know, give him that raw, that, hey, like, don't play. You know what I'm saying? When he said at the end, you heard what he said at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like he changed his tone, his pitch, but it was like, you still owe me 3 cents or something like that. He changed it. Then his initial approach. So it's, man, I feel like with us, with men, it's a you have to step outside of that aggression sometimes, that manness, and talk to them differently, if that makes sense, to get a different outcome, different result.
I agree. Anybody else got something to say before we go into the next video?
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that, man. Like I said, it's a learning process, man. We don't have all the answers. We don't come into parenthood, you know, with a manual, you know, having all the right answers, man. And a lot of that is learned based on, you know, things that we've seen, we've observed from other fathers that work for them, and you try all that stuff out and see what works on your child. You know what I'm saying? Because with my daughter, I ain't even have to raise my voice, you know, like, but with the boys, man, I had to get with them. And then with the youngest son, I had to take an entirely different approach with him than I took with the oldest son. So you got to find what works for the child, man, and what they into and what interests them. CJ's a video gamer, so that was easy. Take the video game, I got his attention. You know, Zach wasn't into video games. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about the child, man, and putting that work in and making those observations as a parent to see what makes your child tick. That's another part of it. You gotta be involved to even know what interests your child or what makes them. Sending them to their room may be a blessing for them. They may be an introvert and want to be by themselves, and so that's not a punishment for them. So it's all about, you know, observing and knowing your children, man, and know what makes them tick. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I don't have nothing really to add, but I agree with everything that's been said. I just think each child is different. So I'm with Chancey. Your parenting style have to change and adapt. But something like, I guess what Markeith is getting, like, I remember when a certain way when my dad changed his voice, then, you know, I knew he meant business, right? So I think we all can agree, both men and women, that, you know, in a certain way God made man when he, you know, when a father changes his voice, as far for boys. So I put myself, when I was little, I knew, you know, it was time to get myself correct, you know, and because I knew my dad meant, yeah, he meant business. So it's just something that unfortunately a mother can't emulate, you know, just cannot emulate that twist or how a fatherly mannerism. It just cannot be emulated. It just only men can do that.
Bro, before we go further, can we highlight the fact that on both of those examples in that clip we just saw, I think the key takeaway for me, man, is that he met both of those boys on their level.
That's true.
So you see how when he told the first boy, he said, "Come here." He's like, and see what he said. He said, "I ain't gonna hit you," cause the little boy didn't come. He's like, "Oh, you know when he said, 'Come here,' hey, yeah, I'm about to get it," but he said, "I ain't gonna hit you." And then see right here, you know, but then the boy still didn't come, and instead of him, you know what I'm saying, doing what he could have done, he got his behind up. He went over there to the kid, and the kid under the table, his tone didn't change, but he got where the kid was comfortable. And then guess what he doing? He started opening up and talking to him and sharing with him. Boom. And even when he said something quote unquote weird, invisible, he ain't tripped. He stayed the same. Everything stayed the same. And then with the other kid, not just going to the crap game, and then what my dad would have done was snatch my behind up out of there and beat me out of the crap game, but he joined in. You know what I'm saying? And then crapped everybody out. And then he came and hollered at him and said, "Look, you already know how to do math, dude. Matter of fact, you were really good at it. Now that I done took care of all that and taught you the lesson, now let me catch you behind out of school."
Right.
You know what I mean? So he met both of them on their level, and because he did that, the impact was completely different.
Right. So he was authoritative, but he was yet soft with it, and he entered their world for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like what we talked about in the beginning. Okay.
Right.
And that go both for a mom and a dad, right? You know, both parents can emulate that, meeting the kids on their level. So it's not only for fathers.
Yeah.
Because we often hear people say, "Man, I know I've heard when I was growing up, I ain't coming down no kids level. I ain't getting down I ain't scooping down no child's level." Well, see, all that stuff is passed on generational crap that we done heard because you don't want to put the work in to get a different outcome. You just emulate what you saw being done, and because we quote unquote didn't turn out so bad, we think, "Oh, it'll work for mine too." Well, I quickly found out that didn't work for me.